Another infuriating reunion. But this week, I aim my anger more at Dorit than Erika, I have to say, because Dorit was really, she took over this whole reunion. Like, does anyone else get to talk? I have to say, though, the real MVP of this reunion was actually Andy. Well, and Jennifer Tilly. But, Andy calling Kyle and all that Morgan stuff, like, finally, where have you been for the last 5 years, Mr. Cohen? Either way, still very frustrating and still waiting for Garcelle's walk off. It looks like the trailer was a little misleading because she is staying till the end. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Bravo Papers, a safe space for all us Bravo fans who love to analyze, deconstruct, and talk about our favorite Bravo shows ad nauseum. So join me, Bravo and Botox, and we'll catch up on all the Bravo news and read way too much into our favorite shows and Bravo celebrities. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bravo Papers. Here for, I was about to say Bravo Weekly News, but it's not that. It's the Beverly Hills Reunion Recap, Part 2. All right. And Part 1 it was something. And I have to say, I got a lot of great feedback from all of you listeners. So thank you so much, for all your kind words and feedback. It was awesome. A lot of people were like, thank you for helping me get my emotions out. And not to toot my own horn or anything, but if I'm here and I'm helping people to get out their frustration because of that very frustrating part 1 of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, then I'm happy to do that. Because listen, I'm irritated and annoyed and angry at some things that happened. And, not all of us are on the mic or have, do content creation to express their frustrations, and we need somewhere to vent. So if you are venting vicariously through me, then I love that. And there was a lot to vent about, especially with the part 1. And part 2 wasn't that much better. I mean, it was better in the sense that I guess like Garcelle wasn't in the hot seat, but it was still a lot of, you know, hypocrisy and standards for some people, no standards for the other people. Like, it was still a lot of that. Okay. It was still a lot of that, which is very annoying. And listen, Dorit is really annoying me, like just even more this week. She was already annoying me, but last week I was more focused on Erika. This week, Dorit is really getting under my skin, and Kyle. But I think me being annoyed at Kyle just kind of goes without saying at this point. But Dorit is just, she thinks she's got these like epic reads, and that she's really like burning people. And what drives me even more crazy is watching Erika's reactions, and Erika with her like mouth wide open, like that was just like the read of the century when really it was something so fucking stupid. And you know what? Fuck Kyle and Dorit and Erika. I can't stand any of them. That's my starter for this podcast today. So if you're coming here for an unbiased look, it's not the right place, okay? Because the fun thing about covering these is to have an opinion. I think having no opinion isn't fun. But again, you don't have to agree. I respect all point of views. Well, almost all point of views. Okay. Okay, let's get into it. Right from the jump, Sutton says, I didn't know Kyle was so angry. And I have to say, Sutton looks very upset by that kind of realization. And she's saying that to Garcelle. So this is like when they're still on the lunch break. It is funny to me how much strategizing Garcelle and Sutton have to do backstage to defend themselves from this pack of hyenas that's like coming after them. Like, it's like they know they are walking into the lion's den and they know they're going to get picked apart. And it's like, okay, are we ready to go back out there? Like, it really is sad because it shouldn't be like that. it just shouldn't, like, I'm trying to think of other housewives reunions where that's been a thing. And I guess it's happened on seasons where there's been one person who's under fire for something very specific that they did, but or they've been just like kind of the center of a lot of drama. But in terms of like this whole like backstage thing of just like, oh man, we got to go back out there. Oh, they're going to come after you next. Like, it's like Garcelle and Sutton like talk about them like they're like a gang. It's like, it's almost like they're like a group of sharks that like smell blood in the water. Like, it just shows how fucked up this franchise is in many ways. So then they go back out and they start talking about Kyle and the whole like Morgan thing. And this is where Garcelle says that Kyle told her stuff off camera, basically to shut her up. Kyle says, no, I was trusting with you and sharing with you. And you see, here's the thing. This is why these women, like these Fox Force 5 women or whatever, this is why they keep kind of winning in a lot of these situations, is because they put all their talent, brain power, etc., into passive aggressive manipulativeness, and they don't use their brain power, etc., for anything else in life. Okay, this is not me complimenting them, by the way. So when Kyle says that, there is no way for Garcelle to win in this argument. This is a no win, because now Kyle has framed it like, what? I was just trying to get close to you and be better friends with you. I mean, if you perceive that as manipulating, I guess that's like maybe you have issues in life. And Garcelle has no choice, because if you try to accuse the person of anything else, it's like you look like the asshole, right? Even though in reality, Garcelle is 100% right. Like 100% right. Okay. Oh, sorry. I turned on my voice text thing by accident. Okay. And I just started adding things to my notes that I didn't want in there. So Garcelle, she does kind of concede. And again, I get why she does, because if she keeps pushing this, it's not going to go anywhere. Right. And like Kyle's never going to admit, yeah, I was manipulating you. Yeah, I told you things off camera so that you wouldn't bring them up on camera. But do I think that that's what Kyle was doing? 1000% yes. That is exactly what I think Kyle was doing. Of course. Of course, that's what she's doing. That is, Kyle will pull out any dirty trick in the book, and we'll get to more of those next. Um, I I loved when Andy was like, she who cannot be named. Like, what the fuck is going on? We can't even like I know it was a joke and I did laugh at it, but it's like this whole situation is so stupid, and I cannot believe that Kyle Richards has somewhat successfully, I would say mostly unsuccessfully, but has gaslit the world, including her cast, into this idea that we're all the problem when it comes to this her and Morgan thing being in the press. That is somehow she has no responsibility in this. Like, you are the one who started being quote unquote seen in places with Morgan and calling paparazzi on yourself. And no, I don't fucking believe for 1 second that it's paparazzi following Kyle Richards around. You are the one who has done this. Like, you have done this. You did the music video, you brought her on the show, and she has the gall to sit there and be angry at Garcelle and like whoever the fuck else dares to question it, including the audience. And then she does this thing that Kyle's always going to do, which is she brings up her daughters. That's like her get out of jail free card that she's always trying to use. She's not going to say something to hurt her daughters. Okay. Um, you already did a music video where you are lovers. You brought her on the show. You literally, as recently as like 2 weeks ago, were in paparazzi pictures with her. You were in Paris with her. You like just, you're at the gas station. Like, fuck off. I don't know what else to say. It's so stupid. And also stop using the daughters. Your daughters are all basically, they're all adults except one who's an older teenager. Your husband is in Aspen spraying champagne all over girls who are young enough to be his daughters, not to mention taking pictures out in the snow where the girls are topless and just wearing ski pants, and then the straps are just covering their nipples. Don't try to convince me that you and your husband give a fuck, okay? Because actually, I'm sorry, but a lot of protecting children when it comes to these shows, the only real way to do that is to not be on the shows. And I do think some people do a better job of it than others, but even if you are really like private, even if you're on this show and you somehow find a way to be like quote unquote private or anything, you don't know the way that things can turn. Okay. So just by being on a reality show, you're opening up possibilities of things like this happening. And again, if you really want to protect your family, then again, like when you're going through something, take a break from the show, take a pause. Maybe you quit, whatever the fuck the case is. Like, you don't, no one, there's no gun to your head, Kyle. You don't have to be on the show while you and Mauricio are getting divorced. Like, if you really, really didn't want to deal with it on camera and didn't want your daughters to have to deal with it, you didn't have to film that pickup scene where you and Mauricio talk to them and they're all crying. You didn't have to then also parade them over to Netflix on a second reality show to talk about it again. Okay, this is what you and your family are going for. I'm sorry. Your daughters are all trying to be on the show on Netflix. It got canceled because they're all boring as fuck. I'm sorry. And they all have the same monotone voice and talk like this. Like, I'm sorry. Like, no, again, I'm not talking about the one that's underage. That's not her decision. But at the end of the day, like, don't pretend this isn't what the empire that you and your husband are all building and have raised your kids with, and that this isn't what you're all striving for so you can continue being wealthy and creating more generational wealth. Like, that's what they're doing. So don't act like you're like protecting people. Okay, sorry. End rant. Okay, where was I? Bose says to Kyle, stand in it. Just say, I'm not sharing, and you can feel however you want, instead of saying, but I am sharing. So is that like Bose's way? Is that so? When I heard that, I was like, is that Bose's way of saying that Kyle is lying about sharing? Which I thought it was. I thought that was kind of Bose's way of being like, listen, you're not really fucking sharing. So just like own up to it at least, because at least we could respect if you just admitted it. But Bose doesn't like, I think Bose is newer and she's watched the show, but I don't think she's watched it with like the same kind of critical eye that some of us fans who've like rewatched it 19 times or whatever. Kyle's never going to change and she's not going to do that. But that being said, I appreciate that she's calling her on it, certainly. But it's funny because as soon as Bose says that, it goes over to Kyle, and then Kyle starts going on about how, but I do share. Like literally, Bose is like, just stand in it. Just say, I'm not sharing this or this part of my life. And then Kyle's like, but I do share. Like, she starts freaking out about how she does actually share. See, like, it's Kyle cannot stand in things. She can't handle being called on things. She can't handle being labeled things. Any of that stuff happens to her and she completely loses her shit, as we see like multiple times throughout this reunion, and that I've seen 100 times throughout the course of this show, probably more than that. Okay. And then Kyle says, I could have shared nothing like some people do. Are you talking about yourself? Just wondering. Because the other people who really have done that have been the Fox Force 5 for the most part. And when they've shared again, it's been forced hand to share. And I'm not going into all that again now because like I just can't. Okay. And I've ranted about it enough. Dorit and Kyle's argument about having two sets of rules. This is what I wrote. I'm starting with like what I wrote and then I'm just going off script. Okay. I wrote Dorit and Kyle's argument about having two sets of rules is the exact argument she had with LVP. Yeah, that was the first thing that popped into my head because Kyle is now saying this about Dorit. But it's actually Kyle who holds Dorit to a higher standard. So, ironically, this was what Kyle was always mad at LVP about, because Kyle was always like, well, you hold me to a higher standard than you hold Dorit when Dorit first came on the show. And then, it happened other times too, like with Brandy or whoever, right? That Kyle was like the newbie that LVP would like open up her arms to, and then Kyle would get kind of like jealous, or I don't even know, something like that. And then Kyle would be sort of like, well, you hold me to a higher standard. If I said what Dorit said, you would have raked me through the coals, and and she would go on and on. And then LVP would say, no, that's what you do. And looking back on LVP and Kyle's relationship, they both did that to a certain degree, because the two of them, I think, had an alliance of kinds, and they were sort of like the queen and sidekick of the show until Kyle, who was like basically the second queen, decided she needed to overthrow the biggest queen, and she did it. I'll give her that successfully. But what I will say is that you know I do think that Kyle did that to LVP just as much as LVP did it to Kyle. Like, I do remember that there were things, especially when I rewatched it, and I've rewatched it multiple times, but the more times I rewatched it, the more I was like, you know what? Kyle does defend other people more. She is willing to kind of throw these like digs at LVP. She doesn't always like explicitly stand up for her, whereas LVP does sometimes, more often, I would say, actually. So, and again, I'm not saying like LVP's an angel, because she fucked up in many ways. And I think the reason she's off the show is a lot of it is her own fault. But I will say that, it is funny that we're having the same argument again. And there's a common denominator, right? Which is Kyle, because, Kyle does decide, like, you're my bestie, you're in the clique. And then she expects blind loyalty. And if you even like question something or step out of line like a tiny bit, because like Dorit, she said, well, I do think that since she's been friends with Morgan, she hasn't been hanging out with me as much. Like, that was the comment. It wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't like Kyle's a fucking bitch. Like, it was nothing like that. And then that's enough for Kyle to completely shut down. So that is a pretty high standard. And I do think like it does seem like Erika has kind of co-signed some things that Dorita said, and she's gotten away with it much more, because I do think that Kyle is scared of Erika. For I don't know why any of these women are scared of her. She is all bark, no bite, and her bark even sucks, which I'll talk about later as well. So yeah, let me get back on track here. So I gotta say, I can't stand Dorit, but in this Dorit Kyle situation, because I can't stand either of them, so it's easy for me to look at it more objectively, I have to go with Dorit's side. But I don't have that much empathy for Dorit, because she's been Kyle's little minion for years, and she's gone along with the whole, Fox Force 5 dynamic, and she's been in that clique, and she's been hiding shit. And she's another one who the only reason she's sharing things and being so quote unquote real with her divorce and PK's alcoholism and whatever is because her hand was forced. And I think her hand was forced by the fact that she was maybe going to be fired, which to me, Kyle basically confirmed in part one of the reunion. And also by the fact that, the money ran dry. The money ran dry. She needed this gig. So I think that's it. Okay. So Kyle basically ghosts Dorit, and then she justifies it with the whole, like, it's because of the Watch What Happens Live thing, which wasn't, again, like I said, wasn't even that bad. It was really just Dorit saying how she felt about her and Kyle not being as close. So I do think it's insanity that Kyle acts like this is such a big deal. And the most fucked up part is I think that it is a big deal to Kyle, which to me just shows like something is wrong with Kyle. Like, why are you so bothered by anyone even? And it might be because her and her sisters have this like very tight-lipped sort of, what's it called? I don't know, like understanding. Like whenever they talk about their issues and their family problems, it's always in these like vague, kind of tiptoeing around, but never saying anything directly or in a real way and never giving specific examples. And if you think about it, the way Kyle has handled her divorce has been exactly that, you know? Even like Kim's addiction, the only reason that was even talked about explicitly is because, yes, Kyle outed it in that limo scene, which from my understanding, they were filming for like 19 hours or something crazy, just driving the limo around in circles until Kyle just exploded. But it's also because eventually Kim just started acting so crazy and erratic on camera that it was like, and then she got arrested and all for stealing or whatever. So, a lot of stuff has been because their hand was forced. But the three of them are quite, they keep things very close to the chest or vest. Is it chest or vest? What's the saying? I don't remember. Okay. I'll look it up later. So yeah. So then what was my point, guys? I'm sorry. See, I shouldn't record these before I've eaten dinner. It's just never like my brain really doesn't function as well. Oh yeah. My point was that it's like she expects that type of, you know, it's like she expects her friends to all kind of understand her levels of or her expectations of privacy. And then if her expectations of like privacy, loyalty, whatever, she just kind of like expects them to know it. And then if they don't, or they even like cross the line like a millimeter, she cuts them off. Like that's basically Kyle's MO. But I have to say, oh yeah, actually, before I get to that. So then Dorit mentions that the last time they hung out before that was in London for Mo's birthday, and they hung out with Morgan. And then after that, she distanced herself from Dorit. So I thought that was very interesting that they were together in London hanging out with Morgan for Mauricio's birthday. So like, what the fuck is going on? First of all, you are closer with Dorit than you like. Again, this just proves that Kyle lied, that she lied about the fact that they weren't that close. It proves to me that it just tells me a lot. It proves to me that like there's more going on with Morgan, which again, we knew that. The fact that she's going to Mauricio's birthday, like, I don't know. It's just all a mess. I mean, I guess what bothers me about it is just the fact that soon after that is when Kyle goes on the live and says her and Dorit aren't that close. And, I bet you that Dorit was there in London, probably feeling maybe like left out or ignored because Morgan was there. And it's just like, it just seems like, there's no accountability being taken on Kyle's side at all. Like, and it's not even like that much of a dig. It's more of just Dorit saying how she feels. Like, all you have to say is, well, I didn't mean to make you feel, left out or like we're not as close. I understand I'm spending a lot more time with like this new friend or whatever. That wasn't my intention or something like that. And I am sorry, like I care about you. But Kyle just can't do that. Like she does sort of do it at the end, but it's still, laced in passive aggressiveness. Okay, and then thank you, Andy, for setting Kyle straight with this whole Morgan thing. Because Andy says she's, well, he doesn't necessarily say it like this, but this is how I'm saying it. She's a fucking public figure, and that's her choice. And I'm sorry, but if she wants to get bigger as an artist, as a public figure, and have more recognition, you have to take the bad with the good. You don't just get to be only big and like there are some music artists who have been able to live a very private life, etc., but clearly that is not what Morgan is going for. If Morgan didn't want any involvement in this, she wouldn't have pursued this relationship in the first place with Kyle. She could have just answered Kyle's DM and been like, yeah, thank you so much for being a fan. And like it could have moved on. She chose to start hanging out with her. She knew Kyle was a reality star. She knew Kyle has people watching her life, like the fans of the show. She knew all that. Like she's a grown adult who makes her own decision. She's not some like little kid who doesn't know any better. I'm sorry. And then the whole idea that, oh, it's too much for her. It's a different vibe. Yeah, I get that. But again, it's Kyle knew what it was to be on the show. And Kyle keeps saying, well, I convinced her. She did it as a favor to me, etc. It's like, okay, so I guess you really didn't give a shit. So like what you're telling us is that you just, threw her to the wolves and you didn't care. You knew what this would be. Also, she obviously had that idea, or one of you did, or you did it together for the music video. So I'm sorry, she can't like, Bethany Frankel once say, I hate to quote Bethany, but you can't play stupid and smart at the same time. Okay, this just makes no sense. And her popularity has gone up since she's been seen with Kyle, dating Kyle, whatever, and since she's been on the show. And again, like she probably did what a lot of people do, which is come on and they think it's going to be all positive and that's it. And I guess that's where myself and a lot of people get annoyed. It's like it's like people like Kyle, they just want the fame and the recognition and the positive stuff. And then they like victimize themselves and think like they shouldn't have to deal with any of the negative parts of it. And it's like you can't get to the next level in a public entertainment type of career and just expect it to all be only positive attention, especially when you start dating someone who is a reality star, and not just a reality star, like a reality star who's been on the TV for over a decade, who we've watched their lives and we've watched them end a 25-year marriage and all this other stuff. Like it's just, it doesn't work that way. Sorry, Morgan. Okay. And I don't even believe Morgan. I mean, I don't even believe Kyle a lot of this stuff. I don't even, I don't know. Okay. It's funny too, because Kyle is constantly trying to cut in when Andy is speaking because she doesn't even want him to finish speaking the truth. Like he starts listing all those things that I just said, basically, like, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too, or like whatever, all those things. And as he's saying it, she's literally interjecting after every, like she wants him to stop. Like she doesn't even want those words and those ideas, which she knows and has seen on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere else, because those are what a lot of people are saying. She doesn't even want those, uttered by anyone on the stage. You know what I mean? Like she just wants to live in this like delusional bubble of the reality that she wants. Okay. So Kyle says, where was I? Okay, so Kyle says the text to PK was because of the separation. It wasn't a text on just like a random Wednesday. And then Dorit says, no, it was not. So Dorit says it was not because of the separation, but she says that and then they never really address it. But then they show this unseen footage of Kyle telling Erika that, PK tells her stuff, which I'm like, why wasn't that in the season? But okay. Erika says she took the text as being about the show, not about keeping things from Dorit. And everybody kind of agrees with that, which, listen, I can see how you would take it that way. And I can actually even go so far as to get on board with it being about the show, because it did kind of sound like that. But what I will say is that doesn't erase that it is still weird for you to be texting PK in this way of like, implying that he is divulging anything. Because if he's divulging anything that, you wouldn't want on camera, then that in itself means maybe the conversations have gone too far, considering that this is your friend's ex. Okay. So where was I? Kyle cannot just take accountability though. Like to me, this is like the easiest thing to take accountability for, and she still can't do it. She just can't even say like, sorry for the text, period. She has to start bringing up other stuff. Like she brings up last year, Dorit's text. Like, can we talk about this year? It's like she's a master at deflecting. And it's like she will just throw things and throw things. Watch What Happens Live, BravoCon, last year's reunion. Like she's like one of those baseball machines. They just keep coming at you. And And listen, let's be honest, she doesn't understand what girl code is. She thinks girl code is just being a nice friend. Like a guy can be a nice friend to another guy. That doesn't like girl code is usually involving being like loyal to other women when there's like men involved. You know what I mean? So it's usually like, I'm not going to go sleep with your ex-husband. I'm not going to, go be like the other woman when I know this guy's in a relationship. It's like, I'm not going to go and like, I'm not going to take your exes back even if I like secretly think he's right in your argument, like I support my girlfriend. Like that's whereas Kyle's just like names all the things about her that make her a good friend. And I'm like, Kyle, the way that you think is so simplistic. Like she has no ability to see like I don't know if she has no ability or she just doesn't want to see like the nuances of situations and it drives me crazy. Okay. Then Kyle mentions that these two that don't even like you were criticizing the text. Yes, Kyle, again, that's actual girl code. Even though Sutton and Garcelle don't like Dorit, they still will take her side because they see that that's just the right side to take. Okay? Even though they don't like Dorit, if Dorit gets hit by a car, I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, because the driver was texting and not paying attention, they're not going to be like, well, it was Dorit's fault. Like, no, it's just called knowing and seeing the difference between right and wrong. Like, whereas, see, that's not how Kyle views the world, though. Kyle views it as if you don't like someone, you go at them no matter what. Okay. So if I don't like Dorit and I'm mad at her right now, fuck girl code. I'm on PK's side. Right. So that's why she's like, what the fuck, Garcelle and Sutton? Why would you take her side? You don't like her. It doesn't matter that they don't like her. That's real. That's why even what Dorit said in the first part of the reunion so much contradicts this because she's going on about how like, oh, you don't care about other women. Actually, Sutton took your side in that because that's the thing to do as a woman is to know that texting your friend's ex-husband, your girlfriend's ex-husband is fucked up, even though she thinks you're annoying and hates you. Like anyways, it drives me crazy. Okay. So Kyle can't stand being labeled a mean girl or not a girl's girl. She will obsess over this. So she was in this reunion, and this season, she's called not a girl's girl. Okay. She tried last reunion to shift the mean girl label over onto Garcelle and Sutton, which it's not going to work, Kyle, sorry. But it's funny because she's still obsessed with that. And that was the label she got season 4 or 3 with Brandy. And she's still trying to get rid of it because she cannot take that. And now she's being called not a mean girl, but just not a girl's girl. And let me tell you guys, you heard it here first. You will be hearing about this for the next infinity. Infinity, as long as Kyle is on our televisions and there are still reunions happening, Kyle will find ways to show everyone and prove that she's a girl's girl, and that phrase "girl's girl" will get used again, whether it's during the season next year, interviews. Like you're gonna hear it. This is gonna be Kyle's new thing, because she cannot stand a label or a critique like that. Every time Dorit mentions that she's in a bad place, like that, well, when I got mad at you, I was in a bad place, Kyle has to be like, me too. Me too. Can you ever let someone say they were in a bad place without saying me too? Like it's really annoying. Just let someone have their moment. And I do think that the part of the reason that Kyle is angry at Dorit is because this was supposed to be like her divorce season, even though she kind of already had one, but this was supposed to be her second one. And I think she's annoyed that Dorit's doing the same storyline and is doing it better. Just saying. Even though I don't think Dorit is doing it that interesting either, but it is still slightly better than Kyle. Okay. Bose talks about the whole lies by omission thing, which, I don't always agree with omission being a lie. It depends on the context. But in this context, I definitely agree with it. It was definitely a lie by omission. Garcelle also expands on this and said, it would have been okay to just admit that, you talk some shit about Dorit. You talk some shit about Dorit to PK because you were annoyed with her. But again, same thing I was saying earlier, Kyle will never do this. She'll never just own up and say, I'm not sharing. And she'll also just never own up and say, okay, yeah, I did talk some shit about you. Kyle can't do that. She can't, she just cannot do it. Okay. There's something wrong with her. She can't do it. Okay. Um, period. I'm done. So Kyle talking to PK about why her and Dorit aren't talking. So she's like, no, I just talked to him about why you and I were beefing or fighting and why we weren't talking. No, you were shit talking. Come on. We're not stupid. You think you went up to PK in a neutral, unbiased, let me just report the facts. On April 17th, 2023, Dorit went on BravoCon and said, no, you were like, you know what, PK? I totally get why you can't even deal with her anymore. She's fucking, she switches from this to that. She's totally changed. When you guys first came on the show, her and I were like this. She was genuine. She was a good friend. Now all she cares about is this. Yeah, I bet she did spend all your money. Yeah. Yeah, it is her fault your house is in foreclosure. Can you believe she's outing all your alcoholism stuff? Yeah, she's trying to say stuff about me and Morgan on Watch What Happens Live. That's what's happening. 1 gajillion billion %. Okay. I don't have a lot of money, but what I do have, I would bet on that. And I know I'd win. Okay. Dorit is bothered because Kyle thinks she has some type of relationship with PK, which is true. Kyle does. You can tell that. Here's the thing. Kyle legitimately, I think, on top of all of this other stuff and the fact that she can't stand Dorit, I think she legit just likes PK better, because I actually think that she's never liked Dorit. And I think PK's always been amusing to her, because I actually think PK would be probably, if you just have him as a casual acquaintance or friend, maybe not a close friend, but a casual friend or acquaintance that you just bump into or you see just at social events, he's probably fun because he is kind of funny, and he's probably fun to just shoot the shit with. Anything more than that is, terrible. And again, do not mistake this for me saying PK's a good person, because that's not what I'm saying. So probably she's just more into hanging out with him. And also she's clearly still team Mauricio, even though the other team is her. But, I just think that she just doesn't like Dorit, and I'll die on that hill. Okay. So then we find out that she called PK after the dinner at Oceanside. Kyle, what the fuck? You cannot say that you're a girl's girl or whatever, and then you called her ex-husband. What the fuck? I started thinking about this about my best girlfriends. And would I send them a text if their ex-husband a text just to say sorry you got separated or whatever? Maybe I would, just a sorry you got separated, and that would be it. Right? And that would be after I'd sent 9 gajillion texts to my friend, and we've gotten together and overanalyzed it to death and talked about it for 2 years or whatever. So, and would I call them after I had a fight with the friend? Fuck no. So Kyle, just get out of here with that. So she tries to make it better too. She's like, well, so I did call him. Yeah, I think he was with PK. I think he was with Mauricio. That doesn't make it better. Just because you called him and he happened to be with your estranged husband or whatever, that doesn't make it any less evil. Or what's it called? Backstabby. That's not a word. I just made it up though. Okay, Dorit and Erika. So then Jennifer Tilly comes out. Dorit and Erika are seething with jealousy. I don't care what anyone says. Dorit and Erika do not like Jennifer Tilly. They Dorit likes her as far as Dorit enjoys celebrities. I do think that's kind of Dorit's thing. She just enjoys a celebrity's presence. But overall, I think they hate her. I could tell by their faces, the way they were smiling, fake smiling and laughing at all of Jennifer Tilly's jokes and the way she was talking about her jewelry. They hate this woman so much. It's unbelievable. Like, I think if Erika could like hit her over the head with a mallet and then like put her in a sack and take all her stuff and get away with it, she would do it. I really do. And I think Dorit would be her little sidekick. Um, but yeah, they're pretending they're happy for her and that she's on the show. They're not. And I have a feeling that it was Erika or Dorit who sold that story to the press or whatever blogs when it came out. It came out like a couple months ago, maybe less than that, about how apparently the cast of Beverly Hills all hate Jennifer Tilly. I don't know if you guys saw that. I remember seeing it and I didn't share it on any of my Instagram stories. I don't even think I talked about it on the weekly news because I didn't want to give it life because I could tell this was one of those like planted stories. But what I will say is that like I was wondering because at that time we hadn't really seen a lot of the season yet. And I was wondering, like, oh, is something going to happen? Da, da, da. But now that I've seen everything and this reunion and I've seen the looks on those two envious bitches as they look at her, they are so jealous. I'm sorry. And it's jealousy like to a degree of hatred. Like I really, to a degree of like dislike, I think, especially for Erika. Erika more than Dorit, because I think Dorit has a little bit of giddiness around celebrities. Um, but yeah, do I think that they're the ones who sold that story and or made it up or whatever? Absolutely. And as we know from the Kathy Hilton season, we found out that Erika does enjoy giving stories to the press. Remember that season at the end where Kyle Richards at her like party at her house ends up confronting Erika and is like, I heard that your guy did it. And then it turns out that it was like Erika's guy, which means, and then Erika tries to play dumb, but whatever. Okay, so then Dorit, where was I? Dorit says she worries that Jennifer Tilly is joining the witches of Eastwick. Shut up. And this is how out of touch Dorit is. Like, you call these women witches of something, everyone's just going to like it. It's going to become like their new name. You know, it's going to become iconic, and you're just going to be a loser over there still. Okay, so maybe anxiety meds is why Sutton is so subdued. I gotta say, you know, there is something off about Sutton at this reunion. Like she does seem like she's medicated. I don't know. Listen, I could be totally wrong. She could not be, but she does seem a little like out of it. And you know, we know Jennifer Tilly says something, and Garcelle's like, "We're mic'd." But yeah, that just made me think the fact that Jennifer Tilly was talking about it to Garcelle, that just makes me think that it could be true. Okay. The other thing I wanted to say was that I thought it was really funny how quickly Andy cut off Dorit kind of trying to come at Jennifer Tilly about like taking sides or whatever. He was like, okay, we're done with this segment. Like before it could even go, like, it's like Jennifer Tilly kind of like apologized in her like kooky way. And then Andy was like, and then Dorit kind of said something back. And then Andy was like, okay, we're done with this. He's like, no, 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 Dorit. We are not scaring off the Oscar nominee who's the only comic relief, who the entire audience loves and is bringing in more ratings for your bullshit. Get the fuck out of here. Like, we're not doing this. No, she's a kooky, fun friend of. Done. And I agree with him. Okay. And I think she needs to stay in that role. Okay. Garcelle was right to call Erika on that shady Watch What Happens Live comment. And I hate how Erika can't stand in it. Like this is, you know, the people's iconic housewife who's supposedly like such a badass that everybody's afraid of. Like Andy asked her one simple question about her comments on Watch What Happens Live about who sucks up to Garcelle. I mean, Kathy Hilton, and Garcelle's like, yeah, let's talk about that. And then Erika backs right down. And I'm sorry, but she has been able to, for years, pass that off as like this like nonchalant, like I don't give a fuck attitude. But the reality is that she's a coward. when it actually comes to her having to really face off with someone, and someone who she knows is not like an idiot dodo like Dorit, and who she had conflicts with in the past, but Dorit's easy because, again, like what I just said. But when she's going up against someone who she knows is intelligent and who isn't scared, notice how quickly she backs down. She's like, I was asked a shady question and I gave a shady answer. So like, what is that? And then so they end up moving on, and Garcelle's like, whatever. But like, Garcelle was ready to go toe to toe about that. And she would have been right to, because Erika was being shady. There's she didn't just, oh, I had to come up with an answer. No, you fucking said that and you meant it. Okay. Like, period, end of story. Stop trying to walk everything back. She did the same thing with the Dorit PK thing when she was at BravoCon. She acted all fucking tough about it. And then when she got confronted, she was like, I'm a showman. I'm a showman. And like, I wouldn't have done that. Like, she totally just folds. Like, I just hate how people think she's like, oh, she's so like, she's got good reads and she's this and she's that. She has none of that. Okay. She sucks. Okay. Sorry. And listen, here's my thing with Erika is I've never liked Erika from before the Girardi stuff. I always thought she was like, and it was maybe an unpopular opinion because, and it was back in the day when she first came on the show, everybody, and not everybody, but a big majority of the audience were like, she's iconic. Oh my God, her looks, the private jet, the Pat the Puss. Like, people really thought, she came on and she made waves. Then she ended up on Dancing with the Stars, and then she ended up in Chicago, like the first time before everything went to shit. But I always felt like she doesn't give a lot. I felt like she doesn't give a lot. She's very inauthentic. I always felt like she was playing a role. Like, I never believed any of this like badass persona. Like, it just seems so BS to me. And I never found her interesting to watch because it didn't feel like authentic. The only moments that were really interesting were like those one or two moments where Tom Girardi would snap at her. And not because I enjoy watching a husband snap at their wife, because I didn't like it at all. But it did give a little insight into reality instead of these sort of like fake, because she was always trying to sell that they have such a great relationship and this, that, the other. And I also I'm not entertained by someone whose entire personality is clothes and outfits. That doesn't do it for me. Like, if you have that and then you also have other stuff, fine. But that alone didn't do it for me. Like, the only time Erika became interesting was because of the whole thing with Tom. And even that, I was more interested in the story of it rather than even like Erika's personality with it. You know what I mean? Um, the way she handled it, again, if it wasn't for Garcelle and Sutton, it would have, and Crystal, to give Crystal her flowers as well. I actually think that much like Kyle's divorce, it would have been an exciting storyline that was made boring. So again, thank you, Sutton, Garcelle, and Crystal, for doing the Lord's work. Okay, I'm way off topic here. I'm like talking about 5 seasons ago. Okay, where was I? I actually, wait, where was I? I actually don't think that Sutton intended to hurt with the like, you're angry at your life. Like, I did not agree with Bose on this. I do think that, yes, Sutton was heated in the moment, as was Dorit. But I do think that what Sutton meant was like, I understand that you're going through a tough time, but like, you're overreacting about this and you're taking it out on me. But like, I don't think she meant it as your life is really shitty. You know what I mean? Dorit's like, again, I think she was saying you're going through a divorce. When people go through a divorce, it's a hard time. Like, I don't think she meant it in that way. And I'm not just saying that because like I'm like historically a Sutton fan, because I'm less of a Sutton fan right now, to be honest, because I don't like how she's been not standing up for Garcelle at this reunion so far. But what I will say is that, when Bose was going at her about it, I was kind of like, you can't really know what she would like. You can't prove what Sutton was thinking. Right. And it did feel sincere to me when Sutton was like, that was not my intention. And I still don't think that comment was that big of a deal. I'm sorry. To me, that was like a light, like we just finished watching Dorit call Camille a cunt like 800 times. So I was like, this is the other thing that bothers me about Dorit is that she can hurl out like see you next Tuesday and all these other things. But then when somebody else says something, it's like she's clutching her pearls. Like she's the ultimate Karen. It's like she gets to decide what is too far and what's okay. And she gets to just change the rules all the time. And again, that's what this group does. The Fox Force 5 is they gaslight in that way. And yes, this is the appropriate use of it. It's you get to decide when other people are overreacting and make them feel crazy. And you also get to decide when what they say is too much or not enough. Right. And that'll drive people crazy. It will. And people who are, maybe a little bit like emotionally unstable at times or who are very easily rattled, like Sutton, they will fall for it. The reason Garcelle has worked so well on this cast is because like I don't think she cares enough about them and their opinions of her to be that rattled. You know what I mean? Like I think she's going to leave cuz she's like fuck these ladies, they're not my real friends, but I do think that over the years she's not like desperate for their approval. You know what I mean? Whereas Sutton is, so Sutton is so much more rattled by them. Okay. Dorit, oh yeah. So Bose is like, well, there's so many ways. So Bose's kind of response to Sutton when Sutton says, well, I wasn't intending to hurt. Bose is like, well, there's so many better ways to get someone to stop yelling. Why is it other people's responsibility to get Dorit to stop yelling? And why? And again, this is the problem. This is the gaslighting again. Dorit is the one initially yelling. So why is it everybody else's response? Then when people respond to said yelling, then they're the problem, not Dorit. And again, this is what the Fox Force 5 do. They shift the blame and they shift the target. Right? So it's change the conversation, right? And I don't like that. I feel like, that's what I feel like has been used a lot this season in this reunion. Then Dorit says that Sutton has not said 2 words. And then listen, she's right. Sutton has been quite mute this reunion. But that being said, at this part, Sutton was trying to get words in and they were not allowing it. Like, I have to say, like, Dorit was fucking cutting everybody off, especially Sutton. So there's only so much you're allowed to go at somebody with that when you won't shut the fuck up. And again, I asked my friend at work, the one who I told you guys, my regular Housewives fan friend who does not look at all the internet stuff. I was like, what'd you think of part 2? And she's like, it wasn't as good as part 1. And she goes, it was especially because it was so much of Dorit talking. And I just feel like we don't get to hear from anyone else. And I was like, what a great, like, succinct way of just summing it up, because it is true. But that being said, Sutton she needs to come for these women, but I don't think it's going to happen. And then we talk about the wallet comment. Was it really that bad? Like, again, this is another one of those cases of like this pearl clutching and this performative outrage. Kyle, it's disgusting. I can't believe this. Oh my God. I'm so like, listen, you're allowed to not like the wallet comment. Dorit's allowed to be offended by it and annoyed by it. All of that is fine. But can we not pretend like this is the most egregious thing that's ever been said on The Real Housewives? Might I add again that in this same season, Dorit gets to like act like she's so iconic because she calls people the C word over and over again. But Sutton makes a wallet comment, which by the way, Sutton says is in response to feeling like she's being poked at about alcoholism and called an alcoholic. Yet they act like Sutton saying this is like the absolute worst thing that's ever happened or been said on this show. Like, just honestly, just fuck off. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. Sutton said she regrets it. She apologizes. Done. Like, and then they're like, yeah. And then she doubled and tripled down in her confessional. Yeah, you doubled and tripled down about things too. Like, I don't know what to say. But so she could double and triple down then and then change her mind now. And again, but what I wish is that Sutton would just stand in it. Because listen, I don't think Sutton really is that sorry for that comment. I mean, the best thing that she did this season was call her Poor Eat. Like, that's my new name for her. Like, when I tweet about this show, I'm saying Poor Eat. And so is, to be honest, most other people. It was just such, I can't believe that we never thought about Poor Eat. No one ever thought of it until now. Because it was right there. It was really right there in front of us and no one thought of it. And it's really good. So I got to give Sutton, if she gave us something before she leaves the show, whenever that is, it was that. It really was. But yeah, the way that Dorit baited and instigated with Sutton at the end of the show, and then she's like, there she is. She's so weird. Like, sometimes I forget because I've been watching the show for so long. Sometimes I forget how weird Dorit is. Like, when she first came on the show, I was like, this lady's kind of weird. Because she does this sort of like fake accent and she's got kind of like scammy vibes, but then you just kind of get used to them. And I always forget. And then every time my husband doesn't usually like to watch Beverly Hills because he just doesn't like it. The only ones he'll watch Salt Lake City and he'll watch Potomac. He enjoys those two, but all the other ones he says are too boring. Atlanta, he'd probably would be okay with. It's just that it hasn't been on for a long time. So I'm just talking about in the last couple of years. But he was around for this one. He's like, that lady, because he doesn't know. He's like, that lady's so weird. I was like, she kind of is. Okay, so then Dorit's like, there she is with those like big, like bugly eyes. I was like, do you think you're in like a movie? Like, what is happening right now? I'm like, and yeah, because you just spent the last 10 minutes poking at her. Don't fucking poke and poke. And then when the person gets mad, be like, oh, there she is. Like, that is just it just exemplifies, it's just such a perfect representation of what these bitches always do. And by these, I mean, sorry, I shouldn't call them bitches. Okay. I take that back. But what Dorit, Kyle, and Erika keep doing, which is they poke and poke. And then when you react, you're the problem. And I'm going to end it on that. No, actually, no, I'm not, because I have to say one other thing. So, okay, next week is when Dorit is going to walk off. I first of all want to say that they made it out in these previews like Dorit, did I say Dorit? I mean Garcelle, guys. I haven't eaten dinner. Okay, so Garcelle, they made it out like Garcelle leaves like halfway through the reunion, but she literally stays the whole thing. She's going to leave right at the cheers. And I am dying to know, based on that little preview, why in that moment when they're about to cheers and then do the photo, she walks out. Because I don't think it was just like, I was like holding it in and then all of a sudden was like, fuck you guys. I think something was said in that moment when they all get up, or right before that, that is just like the straw that broke the camel's back, and she has to go. Because you can tell she already kind of quit. Like, just based on how Garcelle was in this second part, I'm like, oh, she's already quit. Like, I don't think it was I don't think it was a decision at that last second. I think in her head, she's like, I'm fucking done with this shit. And she's just kind of sitting there like stewing in it, which again, don't blame her at all. But I do think that in that moment, maybe some comment, like it was probably some like subtle passive, because that's what these women do, some subtle passive aggressive dig. And she was like, yeah, bye. Like, I'm out. Like, I think that's what's going to happen. And as sad as it makes me, I'm still dying to see it, because I just need to see it. Okay. I just need to see it. Okay, everyone. Thank you for letting me get all of this off of my chest. And you are now in the know for everything Beverly Hills, even more so. All right. I will see you all next week for the big grand finale. Thank you again for listening and for being here. If you would like more bonus content, head over to patreon.com/Bravo and Botox. Thank you guys. Bye. Thanks for listening, everyone. Your support really means everything to me, and this show wouldn't be possible without you, the listeners. So please, if you enjoy the podcast, leave a 5-star rating and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. For more, you can join my Patreon, patreon.com/Bravo and Botox. And for $5 a month, you'll get 4 extra podcast episodes a month. You'll also get early releases of Bravo Paper episodes and more. Please also subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Bravo Papers and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Bravo and Botox and at The Bravo Papers. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, you can at buymeacoffee.com/Bravo and Botox. Send your love through some much needed caffeine. And any guest that was on today's episode will be in the show notes, all their social media and contact information. So thank you so much, everyone. Keep overanalyzing Bravo.